Hawks don't have a timeout. Trey from midcourt to win it.
Swanson to first. Launching downfield, underthrown and intercepted. Keely Ringo has an escort down the sidelines, all the way to the end zone, and Georgia is going to conquer the Crimson Tide.
Welcome back to the Everything 404 podcast, and today we are coming to you with another Atlanta Hawks reaction coming off of a back-to-back against the Miami Heat, February 24th, 2025. And Jarrett, we are finally here with a win
Let's
against the Miami Heat
go!
today. Third video we've made. We finally get to review a
I
win.
thought we were cursed there for a minute.
Yeah, we started this podcast and started doing the videos, and we hadn't won a game since. But today we pulled out a huge one, and man, it was definitely a more sloppy game. I guess we'll just call it a defensive masterpiece to just bring out the positive side of it. But Jared, how you feeling about the game today?
You know, I feel good, but I mean, I'm not. I'm gonna bring this up later. Onyeka Okongwu, he's him. He's the best center of all time. I don't care. He's 6'8".
Yeah, he put together an incredible game today. He has truly emerged as the starter here in Atlanta. And, there was a lot of questions about it, whether he would be able to compete down low and keep up with his size and be physical and strong enough to kind of, battle down low, fight for those rebounds. But man, we have seen him time and time again come through. And something that we haven't seen at the big man position in a long time is that kind of offensive game with he's got really great touch down low. We saw him hit a couple of those, close little even floaters, and one a beautiful turnaround little hook shot type push shot. And it was beautiful to watch. He was also 2 of 3 from the 3-point line today, which is something that Atlanta has been missing for a long time. When you have a guy that can space the floor and open up the court, it just creates so many opportunities. And he's going to get the opportunity to shoot the ball when you have a guy like Trae Young passing the ball and making plays. So Onyeka was absolutely incredible today. He's the overall MVP of the game, 70% from the field, 19 points, 8 rebounds, and man, he played an incredible game.
Okay, now going to the point. Well, I was gonna say earlier. We played good. We played good defense today. I'll say that, but the Heat had a bunch of shots. I feel like, especially that second half, that were just so unnecessary. I feel like I know Ware had one down in the paint to where he had an open shot, but he passed it out to 3-point for a 3-pointer, and then the dude bricked it. I forgot who it was,
I believe it was
and I
Alec
feel it
Burks.
happened. That wasn't even the first time it happened that game. And then Hero, he got the steal, or however you say it. He got the steal and then pulled up from 3 when he would have had an uncontested layup.
Yeah, and if it would have been contested, he would have been going one-on-one with Trae Young. So
Hmm.
kind of would have been an easy play for him, you would assume. And, we've seen Trey strip a couple of balls, down low this year, but I'd rather take my chances on the easy layup instead of pulling it out for a three. And it's like you said, we saw that play really early in the game. Khalil Ware, who did have an incredible game today, he dominated down low with the boards. He was putting a ton of good shots up. He had a couple of good little turnaround push shots like Onyeka did. He was hitting some tough shots down low, getting to the line. So him not taking that shot was kind of crazy to me. I feel like it may have played a role with him being a little bit off balance. He kind of caught the ball, was spinning around, but he really didn't even take a look at the basket. He almost basically like hit it out to him, like volleyball passed it out to the 3-point line. So I think it was one of those nights that were just shots were not falling. You saw Alec Burks, who it seemed like he had shot the ball 20 times and he didn't make a single shot until the fourth quarter. And it seemed like they were taking a ton of tough shots. And, when your shot's not falling and you're not getting things to go, you want to try and get inside, get an easy bucket, see it go through. But it seemed like they were just taking shot after shot. Hero shot a couple of them, almost 30 footers, and he was just struggling overall tonight. So And it's not only on the Heat side. The Hawks had their struggles tonight. Trey was 0 of 7 from three. Levert struggled early on, and we
Ricochet.
just think Ricochet. Yeah, he had definitely had a rough night. I might have jinxed him pushing the Rookie of the Year agenda. I might have had something to do with that. But all jokes aside, it was a tough night for both teams shooting the ball, and it was good to see us pull the game out. And I mean, I feel like we're mentioning this guy more and more every episode, but Dyson Daniels, man, he is a game changer, the Great Barrier Thief himself.
7 steals.
Yeah, he seems to just take games over. It's now 2 nights in a row. We said we couldn't pull out the Pistons game, but he, in that fourth quarter of the Pistons game, single-handedly brought us back. 3 steals in the fourth quarter, couple of big ones. He's always getting on the break, and I'll tell you, he may have one of the nastiest spin moves in the game. His little spin move inside to get to that floater is just so smooth and clean. And like we've talked about a lot of times, he is continuing to improve his offensive game while already being the best defensive player in the world. He is the defensive player of the year.
I don't
And
know if I'd say all that because like healthy Wemby, but like at the same time I would say perimeter defender.
I think, honestly, in my opinion, I feel skill wise, it's Dyson Daniels overall because we do see Dyson Daniels block shots. We see him in transition. We've seen him with a couple of big chase down blocks this year. And I think it also plays a factor, and this is no credit taken away from Wemby. I think it is Wemby and Dyson. That's your conversation of the two best defensive players in the world. Obviously, I am saying the Dyson best defensive player in the world, taking that with Wemby being out. I think with Wemby being out right now, it's obvious that he is the
Oh yeah, for
DPOY
sure.
best defensive player in the world. But if you count Wemby in, a healthy Wemby, it becomes definitely a conversation. But in my opinion, and this is, a little bit of Hawks bias is always going to be in there, but I think what Dyson does is more impressive to me because obviously he's not 7'4". Now, Wimby is a player like no other. We've never seen anything like it before. But his ability to block shots and contest shots on the perimeter, and also, I mean, we've seen him stop 3-on-1 fast breaks before. So I think it just kind of depends on how you look at it and how you take it in. I think it's 1A and 1B, however you want to put it, however you want to take it. But right now, with Wembanyama not being healthy and not being eligible for Defensive Player of the Year, I think it's almost silly to not have Dyson Daniels number one for DPOY.
Yeah, I mean, insane. Outside of Trey, he's had the biggest impact on this team this year. Well, yeah, I'll double down on that. I'd say he had a bigger impact than the healthy Jalen Johnson.
Yeah, I feel like that. And the thing I hate about that is that it's still a conversation that's up in the air, and it's a tough one to talk about because I will say I was definitely reading some stats today, and just kind of looking at some things of how much the offense and defense as well was just overall better with Jalen Johnson on the court. I think it's another kind of 1A, 1B situation. I think Trey Young's the obvious catalyst. He is the superstar, the captain, the leader, whatever. He is that guy. And then after that, it was kind of tough to tell because you can look at it so many different ways. This team was missing a big thing last year, two big things last year. We're still missing a dominant big man. I think if you pair not even an all-star, but just a dominant inside presence to go along with Trey and, also have Okongwu to kind of play Okongwu, excuse me, to play that kind of, you know, just kind of play both of them at the same time. You can or excuse me, you can play both of them at the same time, or you can, flip-flop them depending on the lineup you've got running with them and depending on who you were to get. But last year, we were one of the worst defenses in the NBA. One of the worst, but we were one of the best offenses in the NBA. Dyson alone has changed the entire attitude of the team. And it's not only Dyson Daniels, this guy is also like Terrence Mann. Jalen Johnson was playing an amazing brand of defense before he went down. Okongwu has been really good defensively this year. And these past couple games, Clint Capella has really made some noise on the defensive end. And you have even seen guys like Trey Young make improvements and get better on the defensive side of the basketball. Trey jumping up to over a steal per game. We saw him block a shot today. He blocked Tyler Hero in the corner. I thought that was pretty cool to see. And so, but they changed the attitude of the team. I think Jalen still would be more of a boost because of how he's able to play make, which is one thing we're really missing when Trey's not on the floor. We don't have a true playmaker. Dyson's improving and getting better at it, but Jalen kind of was controlling the floor a lot better and learning from it. So it's a tough question to ask, but I do agree with you. Right now, there is no other person than Dyson Daniels that's that two option.
Yeah. And going back to Trey Young and being the dude, he had an off night tonight. I mean, that's clear, right?
Yeah.
But like he still did his thing. He had 14 assists. He was getting the ball out. And I love that you can have someone who's not having his best night shooting that can still get the ball out to his teammates and have let them cook. Trey Young, his playmaking ability, it we have to keep him, dude. Like there's going to be rumors of him being traded this offseason. There's going to be rumors probably until we become a good team. But Trey Young is a hooper. I mean,
Yeah,
he's a dog.
listen, I absolutely agree with you. And um, personally, I think with Trey Young, it's going to come down to a few things. And one thing I think you have to kind of take with a grain of salt, you have to look at it and pay attention to this, is that how he talks in press conferences and in media interviews. And obviously, nobody expects Trey Young to come out and say, "Oh, I ain't going nowhere," or expects him to come out and say, "Oh, I'm gone next year." Nobody expects that. But it's the little things that go on. Like yesterday, um, Zach Langley, who hosts Hawk Scoop, shout out to him. He put a tweet on Twitter. A lot of people were blaming Trey Young for the loss against the Pistons. He had 38-13. People were blaming him for,
Yeah, that
whether it
was
was the
unwarranted.
turnover. Yeah.
I mean, he's
And
definitely not like innocent in that loss, but like
no, he was not the exact reason we lost that game, though. He was being
no.
blamed. All of it was being put on him. And he had 38 and 13. He was the offense. There was nobody else. The ball wasn't moving. Players weren't moving. When Trey's on the floor, he is the offense. The offense runs through Trey Young. So he posted that on X, Twitter, and Trey Young himself responded to that and said, "We'll win," and said, "You got to get the." I don't have the exact quote. I want to let me check on that real quick. I know I screenshotted it. I was pretty excited to see it. He said, let's take this. He said, "We'll win. Trust me. New guys take time." Which that to me means a lot because you do look at this team and you look at what we did tonight. You look at the contribute from George Niang, who has continued his hot streak. If he wouldn't have been in foul trouble, we would have seen him shooting that thing in the fourth
I
quarter,
still
and we
wish he
all
could
know it.
play at least serviceable defense because I think his defense has been pretty below average since he's
It
been
has
here.
been. I think it's more of a he's a good body to body physical defender. He's a smart defender and he's good, when he can put a body on you and be physical. I think he struggles a little bit, especially when the teams like to run the high pick and roll and he's more at the 4 or 3 a lot of the time and you see him get switched onto a smaller guard. That becomes an issue for him. But I will say for his size, I've been very impressed with his rebounding. He seems to rebound very well, and like I said, he's a very smart player. He's a veteran. He knows what he's doing. So Niang's been incredible. Obviously, Karis LeVert, he had a bad start tonight, rough night last night. It seemed it was still going that way for him today, but he got inside and hit a tough floater, and from there it was buckets. He had a three, he had a baseline dunk off the tray inbound under the basket. He had another dunk in transition, and he started to really get going. And to get us into our third MVP of the day, Terrence Mann, who we've seen kind of get lower end of the minutes in some of these games, but today he was absolutely incredible, especially at the start of the game. He was one of the first guys to knock down a three-pointer. And after that shot went down, we started to really see him himself get going and his team get going as well. And it's like we've talked about in the past, his defense alongside Dyson Daniels or without Dyson Daniels on the court changes the game for Atlanta. He's also a good rebounder. He's good down low. He can guard the perimeter. So the three pickups have been huge for Atlanta. Man played an incredible game today, and he was arguably one of the overall MVPs of the game, as we do have him in the top three. Him and Onyeka kind of fighting for that spot. Dyson, it's hard to take any credit away from him. The Great Barrier Thief, 7 steals today. He is up to 161 on the season, which is absolutely unheard of. He's already broken the deflection record, and he continues to build on that. And I believe today he beat Chris Paul, who in 2008, 2009 had, I want to say he had 20 games out of 78 with 4+ steals. Dyson Daniels had his 21st game with 4+ steals today, and we are only in it's only his 53rd game of the season. So it really just shows how much of a difference maker not only Dyson is, but how much of a just incredible defender he is.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, he's actually at 163 steals now on the year.
106. That even more to that point, he's just the Great Barrier Thief is real. He is that guy, and back and I do want to to the other point about Trey and talking about this team. I think you don't see Trey leave unless something really bad were to go wrong. There's two reasons you'd see Trey Young leave. One is if he were to ask out, something doesn't, go right in the offseason, issues occur. And two is if the Hawks themselves want to go into a full rebuild. If the Hawks wanted to go into a full rebuild, you could obviously see the possibility of us shopping Trey for some first round picks that we had lost in past time due to the DeJounte Murray trade and some other trades in the past. So it brings up the wonder, but personally, as a Hawks fan, I don't see any reason to let go of Trey Young unless it's absolutely necessary, meaning that he would have asked out of some at some point. Because you have a core five, you have Trey, you have Dyson, you have Zach, you have Jalen when he's healthy next year, and you have Big O. And now you're starting to see these guys like Niang, Terrence Mann. Hopefully, you bring Karis LeVert back, who's on a contract year, Larry Nance Jr., and you have money. We're gonna have some good salary cap coming into the offseason next at the end of the season. So it'd be nice to see us make a splash, try and get us a big name, big man, hopefully, and bring him in. But once again, shout out to Hawk Scoop. You saw, his tweet. He talked about that, Trey kind of being, called out for quote unquote blowing the game, selling the game when he was the offense, 38 and 13. The offense ran through him. He was the reason we were in that game, him and Dyson Daniels. And to see him come out himself and say that we will win and that the new guys, they're going to take time to get into it, but they will, it shows a lot of promise for this Atlanta team that's really exciting for Atlanta fans. And something Zach Langley said himself, if Trey believes in this team, we should too. And I'm fully on board with that.
Yeah, and this one was a huge win. First win coming out of the All-Star break. You get Miami again Wednesday night, and then hopefully you can go on the run. I highly doubt. I think we're 5 games behind the Pistons now.
Yeah, we're still 5 games behind. They did win today. So yeah, we're still 5 games behind, but we are now tied with Miami for the 8th spot in the Eastern Conference. We're both 20 I believe 20 games back now. I could be wrong right there. We may be ahead of them by a game. I need to actually check that real quick. Let's see where we're at in the conference. So no, we've now moved up to, we're tied with the Heat. We're 8th in the Eastern Conference. We are technically ahead of them because we lead the season series, which is something I meant to bring up in the last episode, how big some of these games really are.
Yeah, that
Against teams-
Orlando game was huge too.
Yeah, losing that game against Orlando, losing that game against the Pistons, you need to be in these season series, or at least tied, trying to fight for the win of the season series, because that's going to matter come playoff time. If you see a situation where say the Hawks and Pistons are battling for the 6th seed. They're both 15 games back at the end of the season, but the Pistons won the season series. You're just out of luck there. There's nothing you can really do about that. And I'll be 100% honest with you. Best case scenario for the Hawks this year is to get that sixth seed. You don't, in my opinion, you don't want to be a 7th or 8th seed, winning out of the play-in and matching up with Boston or Cleveland. I think that's just kind of a give me. You don't want that to happen. I mean, we beat Cleveland this year, we beat Boston this year, but in a 7-game series without Jalen, without some other guys too, possibly like Nance and Beat, I don't think you want to see them in a 7-game series. But a team that is a little more interesting is the Knicks. It's a tough
Yeah.
matchup for us still, but I think we match up a lot better against them. I think, we've seen it this year. A lot of close games with the Knicks. Obviously, the game before the break that went into overtime, 151, 150. And, I think it is truly an interesting matchup for Atlanta. And, both teams run the floor well in transition. Both teams are pretty they have their times on defense and they're both very good shooting teams, especially you have to look at Carl Anthony Towns who lit us up. He seems to light us up every time he sees a Hawks jersey. So best case scenario, Hawks can, get some big wins here. Obviously, we've got, like you said, we go to South Beach on Wednesday, play Miami again, and then Friday, a huge game against Oklahoma City Thunder. So hopefully we can keep winning.
Yep. And I that will do it for the Everything 404 podcast. Tomorrow the Hawks are off, or today, because the video should be today. But we will be talking. There will be a video posted tomorrow about the Falcons and how they're going to attack the draft, the combine coming up this weekend, and the Braves and how they've been doing so far during spring training.
Yep. That'll shape it up for us guys. A little shorter episode today. Obviously, it was a later finish here in Atlanta, so we will be back tomorrow, like Jarrett said, with some more Falcons and Braves news. Wednesday, we will be back with another Hawks reaction. But we thank you guys for watching. Everybody have a good night. Go Hawks.